Hello and welcome to the latest episode of our Indiana Office of Tourism Development Educational Webinar Series. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Today's topic is Destination Security, Preparing for the Unexpected. Today's host I have with me John Brown. Director John Brown joined IDHS as the Deputy Director of the Department of Homeland Security Division of Planning, Assessment, Training, and Exercise, and he currently serves as the Director of the Planning and Assessment Division as the Chief Planning Officer. Director Brown has over 42 years in public service at the municipal and state levels. The majority of his career was serving as a law enforcement officer and police operations administrator, but he has also served as the Regional Director of Safety and Security for the Ascension Healthcare System and Security Director for Ivy Tech Community College, Region 5. Director Brown earned his Master of Science degree in Public Administration from the great university down in Bloomington, Indiana University. For those just tuning in, if you would, mute your phone, and that way we can make sure that everybody can hear as we go along. If you have questions as we go, submit those through the chat, and we'll get to those at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to submit those there, and we will read them and hopefully get you some answers at the end. With that, I'm going to turn it over to John Brown, and I'll step out of the way.
Well, thank you very much, Kyle, and welcome, everyone. It's my pleasure to join you this morning. And I guess what we want to explain is, why have you joined us this morning? Why are we here? Well, it's our hope that by the end of our presentation that you will become more situationally aware, you'll understand the resources that are available to you, and we also hope to engage in additional collaboration and information sharing. As you look at the picture on the screen, you know, it's up to all of us to take control of our own safety by being aware of our environment and asking, what is the story actually around me? What I see in this picture that you also see is a group of people. Some are interacting, some are in a small group, and then there's people sitting by themselves. What I also see is a wall of glass. I see a reception counter, but what piques my interest is that there are at least 3 people that I see in this picture that are carrying backpacks. There are folks with their backs to the glass. Folks at the reception center are both paying attention to folks at the counter. So how do we best assess what our situational awareness is at this point? There's always things going on around us, and what we have to do is try to enhance our abilities to measure for our own safety and those that we are in charge of protecting as to what that environment actually looks like, what are the risks that may be within the environment, and how would we deal with those particular risks. In this particular slide, we see there's several things going on here. We have an individual that is a pedestrian walking, and he's going to walk right in the back of a Mini Cooper, or in the travel path of a Mini Cooper. The driver of the Mini Cooper appears to be in reverse and is talking on the telephone, so his attention may be completely diverted. The one pedestrian with his iPhone is obviously his attention is diverted. And then we also see what we assume to be a mother and a small child. She's preoccupied with trying to get the stroller, collapsed and loaded in the car. And I don't know, and we see a child that could that could enter the path of the car. So there's some issues here that we have to be aware of. And you know, this may happen especially in this busy shopping season in the malls or retail stores, and you know, our minds are on other things. Somebody's texting me as to what color, size, or whatever, and I may be the gentleman walking along and not paying maybe the best of attention. So how do we keep ourselves safe and secure? Here's an interesting picture of the circle, Monument Circle in Indianapolis. This picture, photograph, brings to mind several things. First of all, the larger style vehicles, if you're having an event, they are great resources to block entrances, to avoid that ingress and egress of vehicle traffic. They're a great resource for that. Also, what I see here in this photograph is it actually blocks your view. All of these larger vehicles block your view of what's going on the other side of the vehicles. So that sort of can restrict your perception and maybe have an influence on your awareness. I have eaten out of several of these trucks, and so I would visit them again. But anyhow, but besides that, for blocking off areas, for events that happen in your communities, this may be a good resource to help secure individual areas. In addition to that, how do we know, and does anything about any of these vehicles look suspicious to you? Are they in a place that would be out of the ordinary? Could they be a threat instead of a service? And these are the things that you might want to try to consider based upon your community that maybe doesn't have food trucks that visit to your area regularly, that you don't commonly see, and maybe the driver or the occupants are completely unfamiliar to you. Is there something about that would stand out to you for you to pay particular attention to? It's all part of your situational awareness. This is actionable information transforms into risk reduction. What you see here is the fusion process wheel, and it starts with planning and requirement development. What are you looking for? What type of information are you wanting to gather? And so you develop what are you wanting to really truly learn about? So the next step would be information gathering, the collection and recognition of indicators and warnings, such as people with backpacks, maybe some social media chatter that you've been made aware of, or maybe just things that are not that are out of the ordinary in your particular community. And then processing and collation of this information. Then intelligence analysis, what does it truly mean? And then we would want to disseminate that intelligence information that we may perceive as a threat to the state of Indiana or to a particular community or whatever that application may be. And then we reevaluate that information. We reevaluate that. That's kind of an ongoing process to, if we think that there may be the potential for a threat, let's reevaluate that periodically and see if that escalates or if it dissipates. But as you can see on the diagram on the right is situational awareness. First step is truly be aware of your surroundings. And then, well, number one, you want to be prepared. And then you exercise your own particular awareness of your environment. And that could be just any place outside the home. It could be in your place of business. It could be at the ATM, at the grocery store. You know, we read and we hear about some pretty outstanding events that occur. And I'll tell you, I heard on the television this morning, I was watching the news, just as a learning point or a teaching point for situational awareness. There was a gentleman that went to a check cashing establishment in the last couple of days, and he cashed his retirement check, and he naturally took a large sum of money, and the police assumed that he was followed home, and before he could get into his home, he was stopped and robbed. And they were very specific about, they reached into his back pocket and pulled out his wallet and said, "We're taking this money." And so, what was his situational awareness at that point? Had he looked behind him? Had he taken a few moments before he got out of the car and kind of appraised and surveyed his own situational awareness, and could that have prevented this particular incident from occurring? So when we talk about situational awareness, that's a good example of how we should always be, first, prepared, secondly, aware, and then thirdly, take action, and whatever that would be. We have developed at Homeland Security, we have developed a community event guideline for event organizers. And if you are an event organizer, and particularly if this is an outdoor, it could be indoor, outdoor venue, we have a guideline here that explains some of the can-dos or should-dos in planning that event. And that is available by contacting Kyle. In fact, Kyle may have that available later here this morning that he can send out to each and every one of you. But this is kind of things that you wouldn't maybe normally think about in planning your event. And we find that it's a very useful resource for those of you that are organizers. In addition to that, I know that many of you may be having first-time events, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but we would like to obtain that information from you so that we can have that awareness and then provide to you any tools or toolkits that we feel might be helpful to you. Information sharing. We would like to increase our network of information sharing and add you to what we call the daily bulletin, and that there is absolutely no obligation with that. But what it does is that our State Emergency Operations Center sends out alerts on things that are happening in the state of Indiana. And it may include a major warehouse fire. It may include road closures on our main arteries in Indiana. Just any event that may affect your event, that may affect your operation or travel, we want to be able to share that information with this group. So we want to improve our visual information, cascade all hazard alerts, such as I just spoke about, and accelerate the information sharing between all of our stakeholders. And we consider this group one of our important stakeholders because you have so many folks that are attending events in your communities. And improve our social media tracking. That is one of the things that is an initiative at IDHS for 2018. So the takeaways that we want to talk about here today would be the Event Management Resource Guide, which we'll make available to you, create a situational awareness map for your own use, for your own facility, and the DHS and IDHS websites that have an awful lot of helpful information on situational awareness, event planning. The Federal Department of Homeland Security offers an entire course on event planning, which is all web-based. You don't have to go anywhere to take it. You can take it at your leisure and start and stop that particular course training whenever you want to. And it is very, very helpful in planning large events or small events because the principles are always the same. Information sharing, we want to share with you situational awareness briefs, and I sent one to Kyle yesterday, and that he will be sharing with you. It's a hospitality guideline on situational awareness, on terrorism, that I think that you will find interesting. The 2018 event planning and embedding activities, and what that is, I kind of alluded to that a few minutes ago. If you have events in 2018 that are maybe new to your community or draw more than 5,000 people, what we do is we create, the United States Department of Homeland Security sends out to each of the states what is a special events assessment rating. And that captures about 40 different categories that we at IDHS complete. And it's divided into 6 different categories as far as significance of your event, such as the Indianapolis 500 would be a Tier 1 event, the 500 parade would be a Tier 2 event, and then maybe a county fair or of substantial significance where you have to utilize emergency resources and other type of preparedness resources in the county. That would be like a level 5 event. But what we also want to include is the community events from the conventions and visitors bureaus that you bring into the community that we can add to this list so we can have a more comprehensive list of events in Indiana. We just filed the report, and those that qualified to be on the report for this filing was about 470 events in Indiana that were substantial enough to list on this SEER report. So we welcome your involvement in that. We welcome you being able to share this type of information with us. So what is your assignment? Well, your action plan that is in public, don't be preoccupied with your mobile device as we saw in the photographs. Keep your head up. Look around. Look around. Did you notice the car seat in the car next to you, or the man that's watching you, or pedestrians? And particularly, like I said, in this time of year, especially at the retail establishments and malls, people just seem to come out of nowhere, quite honestly, and they're preoccupied and they're not paying the greatest of attention. You know, my vast career was with the Kokomo Police Department, where I was in charge of, for many, many years, all of the community events, and as a result of that, all of the serious accident investigations that occurred in that community for about 34 years. So I understand, you know, the importance of being aware of your immediate surroundings and always being alert, always being aware. While traveling, observe what is around you by asking, where would I go in the event of an emergency? And that could be a medical emergency, that could be a weather emergency, and particularly when you're unfamiliar with a particular area that you're traveling in, you know, where would it's always helpful to be thinking about, you know, where would I go? What would I do? And you want to take breaks in your travel and in whatever activity you're doing, and you want to focus on. Sometimes we get so focused on what we're doing that we lose track of what our situational awareness actually is. So we want to take adequate breaks, refresh ourselves by looking around, understanding what's going on now than what was going on 30 minutes ago, or if you're traveling, where am I at now? And always be asking yourself the question, what would I do, where would I go, and what has changed? And I think that if we try to apply some of those things, I think that we'll stay safe. We'll keep those around us safe, and our holiday season will be much more enjoyable.
All right, before we get to questions, I wanted to let you guys know that we have scheduled the next webinar, which is scheduled for February 6th, 2018. I will be hosting that one. It is called Timing is Everything. When is the right time to post on social media? We've also scheduled our webinar for April. It will be on bicycle tourism, and it will be somewhat of a panel discussion, but it will be hosted by our own Noel Zidlick, who is our Director of Planning for Outdoor Recreation. If you would like more information on those webinars, there is a shortened link here, bit.ly/IOTD webinars. If you don't have that written down real soon, you can always find it under the For Industry Partners tab on the visitindianatourism.com website, which is our industry-facing website, and that is different than visitindiana.com. Webinars in 2018, as I said, will cover social media, bicycle tourism. We will also have one on agritourism, grants, trail safety, and we will have at least one more. We're planning on having 6 different webinars this year, and we hope that you'll join us. As we move on to questions, I've got John's contact information here on the screen. So if you are interested in talking with him, you can do that here. As he mentioned, we will be posting some resources on the Indiana Tourism Industry website, so I will make sure that you get that as we go on. We had some questions about planning for vehicle flow in and out of exit and entry for an event, and about the importance of police being in a visible location.
Absolutely. You know, police presence is truly the first form of prevention. And therefore, I encourage uniformed officers at your high visibility traffic locations, if it's foot traffic or vehicular traffic, either one. But if you're planning an event, and I know that that we've had some recent events around the country, as recently as Halloween in New York City, but if you're planning an event that's primarily in the street, such as, and I'll use the Haynes-Apperson Festival, which I organized that for about 30 years. What I would suggest, and what we would try to do, is we would block the ingress. Well, you want to maintain an ingress-egress lane, but the majority of the intersections that are not designated for emergency travel only, you want to block with vehicles. You know, there were times when I used dump trucks and large vehicles, school buses, those type of vehicles. These food trucks are great vehicles for that. Or, you know, the large bollards, and not just barricades, because those can be driven through. So you want to think about what type of a resource can I place in that space that would keep someone from driving into the crowd or into the event.
If we have any other questions, go ahead and submit them in the chat, and we'll hang out for a few minutes to make sure we answer any questions that can come in.
And I just want to say I welcome your email or your phone calls, and we will do whatever we can do to help you and assist you in any way. And if you want to receive our daily brief or our daily bulletin, please send me an email, and we'll add you to that list. And any other questions that might come to you later, I encourage you, I welcome you to just send me a note.
I would also encourage you for the Indiana Festival Convention this year. IOTD will be hosting a talk with the Department of Homeland Security there. So I encourage you, if you are at the Festivals Convention, to check that out. It will be another presentation about event safety and that type of thing. So, you know, it's something that we want to make sure that our industry partners are putting on the forefront of their minds, because, you know, when these terrible events happen around the country, we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that they're not happening here in Indiana, you know, and we're doing all that we can to prevent our visitors from having that traumatic experience. As I said, we'll hang out a few more minutes to make sure we don't have any more questions. Would like to thank everyone for being here today. It was great to have John, and a pleasure to have you on the webinar tuning in.
Well, I thank you for the invitation and everyone that tuned in today to listen to this presentation.
With that, we're going to go ahead and end the webinar. I don't think we have any other questions coming in. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will send you some resources from the Department of Homeland Security. Thanks again for tuning in, and have a great day.
The leader has disconnected. The conference will be terminated in 5 minutes.